League of Josh podcast is fortunate enough to be powered by Andrews Book Company's used books. ABC Books is located underneath the Superstore at 910 Columbia Street West, Kamloops, British Columbia. Filled with an amazing range of quality books, it is also filled with an amazing range of quality people. It's the only place I'll go to buy and sell my books, and also I'll get amazing recommendations from the employees that work there. Go check out ABC Books. Our second sponsor is Bubble Tea Gardens, located next door to ABC Books underneath the Superstore at 910 Columbia Street West, Kamloops, British Columbia. Bubble Tea Garden is close to the university, insanely cheap for students, and easily the best authentic Chinese food in town. Above all, it is filled with amazing people. Owner Teresa is an amazing, generous woman who glows with kindness and will waste no time in telling you to sit down. Go check out Bubble Tea Garden. My guest today is Pat Hennelly. Pat's been the head coach for the men's volleyball team at TRU for the past decade and a bit. He's been around for my 4 years, but taking my second year off for a hiatus. Pat's personality has definitely evened out since he had kids, but he's still pretty easy to butt heads with, so we do that often. But we always make up for it with a bowl of some sort of Asian cuisine that would make my roommate Charlie throw up in his head spin. Throughout my time here, Pat's been one of the most influential people in my life, being a father figure, an amazing coach, and most importantly, a friend. Towards the middle of the podcast, Pat and I talk a lot about youth sports scheduling. This may be a little bit dry for some, but on either side of that is a lot of solid life conversation. I hope you enjoy. Thank you very much. All right, Henley, why don't you complain about shit?
What do you mean complain about stuff?
I don't know, you just never complain about stuff.
I just think the rule in life, never complain, never explain. It bothers a lot of people, but I just think it's pointless. I do complain about things. I just try not to do it. Try not to do it too much.
Yeah. I guess you complained about it being cold the other day, and then you just crushed like 30 push-ups.
Yeah, it was cold in the gyms. Yeah. No, I do complain, but I like that line of like never complain, never explain. I think a lot of people spend too much time explaining what's going on and explaining why they do things, and it's like it's a waste of time. Complaining too is if you're gonna do well. Okay, I said it was cold and I did something about it, so
yeah.
It's not really. I don't think it's a complaint if you're gonna do something about it, but people spend a lot of time pointlessly complaining about things.
Yeah.
And that's draining on everyone. It's draining on yourself. It's draining on people around you. But yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like people can complain about something once, and then after you complain about something once, you got to do something about it. If not,
you're bitching about it.
Yeah,
then.
just
like,
shut your mouth.
Yeah, I mean for sure. And for the most part, everything that we complain about, we can control.
Yeah.
Or do something about.
Yeah, you can take yourself out of a situation.
I was complaining about this coming in today in my
Yeah?
mind. Yeah, I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I almost called. Carla wasn't here. I would have called it off. I would have pulled the same excuse out of it. Like, hey, can't make it, Josh. One of the kids is sick.
Yeah. Heidi's making me stay home.
The best part about having kids, you use them as an excuse all the time. Like, oh, the kids are sick. Well, I can't. Sorry. Who could argue with that?
When did you start the don't complain, don't explain?
I wrote that down, and I can't even remember where I started. First time I ever heard that. Probably in high school, someone said that to me, and I thought it made sense. And as a coach, like I explain things way more now than I used to. I used to barely explain anything. I used to basically kind of call it the law of the jungle. Like people would come in and figure it out, and the older guys would learn the lay of the land by figuring things out. And I thought that's a sort of a more organic way for people to do things. But then, of course, if the people that are telling the younger guys what to do aren't exactly the right culture, then that doesn't work either. So I actually explain things a lot more now than I used to. I used to have a very limited rule.
Yeah.
And Ken Olenek had a great line. He's like, the more rules you have, the more problems you have to deal with. Trying to keep rules simple. So one of the first, it was a UBC, it was like, don't miss the bus, don't wake the coach, don't miss the bus. There's like 3 rules on the team. And then there's not a lot of time spent people breaking rules, chasing people around for rules, but yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think if you keep things simple, then it should be simple, but that's not the case.
The whole micromanage thing.
Well, and even this player's handbook is now, it's still on my desk. I still have to finish that. I think it was that doing the player's handbook this year was a worthwhile exercise for sure.
Yeah.
And I want to have it explained. So now someone can pick the book up and be like, okay, these are sort of the team rules. Because I used to give a lot of credit or think that, of course, you hey, you've gotten yourself to a level of excellence in volleyball. Obviously, you passed high school to get to this point. You should have a certain level of common sense, and now I just don't want to take that for granted.
Yeah.
Or just assume I assumed a lot of things before that were wrong.
Yeah.
So now I just trying to take like assumptions out and be like, okay, if I explain it, and another great line was like explain everything to someone like, they're a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
Then if you explain it like that, then there should be no reason why something gets broken. Then if a rule gets broken or something happens, then that person obviously is doing it on purpose or doing it with fully aware of what's going on. So
Right.
and I just think the way people are raised nowadays, there's far less figuring out yourself. It's far more of a guided lifestyle.
Yeah. Helicopter parents being micromanaged. You gonna helicopter Mika?
There's a new one now. It's lawnmower parents.
Lawnmower parents.
Yeah, they mow every obstacle out of the way of their kids, so there's nothing possibly can impede their kids' success. Oh, I don't want to, but you're at a point in society now that if I let Mika, let's say he's 8 years old, and I let him walk home alone, someone could report me to social services. Mika was home alone for 25 minutes when I ran to the store and back. Technically, I'm committing a crime now. Whereas
Really?
I grew up in the Kootenays, and I don't know when we were left alone, but it certainly wasn't like 12.
Yeah.
So every province now has an age where you're allowed to leave your kids alone.
Yeah.
Or unsupervised, and there's stories all the time of people seeing kids walking to school with their brother and sister and getting reported to social services because some parent think it's unsafe for a kid to walk 3 blocks to school, and not just Kamloops but any city. But
yeah.
So and the other part that's hard as a parent is what if, right? Like, okay, what if I let my kids go to the park for an hour and something happens?
Yeah.
And I just think it's harder to be a kid nowadays. It's hard to be a parent nowadays. It's harder to be a university student. I feel bad for university students. It's just a constant panic show about grades and where they're going to go and what they're going to do. And I started university in the 90s, and there wasn't a lot of that talk going around. It was first 2 years, do whatever you want and buckle down in third and fourth because that's all that counts if you're going to apply to any kind of graduate work. But there was a sense going to school in the 90s that it was good enough to get a degree. It was like, man, we made it. We're at university.
Yeah.
Things will take care of themselves. Now it's like, yeah, you're in a science degree or you're an arts degree. What are you going to do with that degree? And it just seems to be an overriding panic, and then a sense that an undergrad's not enough now. You have to do a master's or a professional designation after that.
Yeah.
So you see the crush now to get into, nursing now is getting close to 90%. That wasn't the case. Respiratory therapy, I just was having drinks over at holidays with the guy that used to run the respiratory therapy program. He said 20 years ago, they were begging people to get into the TRU respiratory therapy, which is, not even arguably, it's the number one respiratory therapy program in Canada. Mm-hmm. You get a job the minute you leave, and it's always been that case. The minute you graduate, you get a job almost wherever you want. So anyways, they're saying 20 years ago, they're begging people to get in. They're telling people that don't worry if your prerequisites aren't high enough. And now they won't take a single high school student, no matter what your grades are like. They want more of a mature student. They can, in essence, pick and choose from the top. And the kids now that are going to respiratory therapy 20 years ago would have been going to med school. It's such a different dynamic.
Yeah.
Part of it is kids are paying more attention, and part of it, I think, because of parents complaining and kids complaining and people suing school districts and teachers, like the grades for sure are inflated now. I just don't believe high schools are pumping out they shouldn't be pumping out the percentage of A's they are. I just think teachers have sort of given into this idea, like they're scared to give a kid a B because the parents are going to come down and say it's your fault. You're ruining my kid's chance of being whatever. I think there's a huge grade inflation. I used to think it was mostly from private schools. Mm-hmm. We would get kids coming from private schools and not in particular Christian private schools, but we had more kids coming from Christian private schools. And you could basically take 10% to 20% off their grade point average. They're coming in with an 80. They're probably going to end up that first year at university with a 60. And everyone sort of gets knocked down when they come out of high school, but I just felt like that was the first thing where I said, like, there's really some grade padding going on here, but I think it's endemic now. Like, I think it's everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I remember coming from Alberta, there's a huge grade point boost, like coming to a British Columbia University from Alberta.
Yeah.
And then I almost failed out first year.
They say, you get an extra 5%, or is it 10%?
It's something crazy like 8.
But going back to like, am I going to be a helicopter parent? Like, I hope not. But it's hard. It's hard in this sort of society where everyone has a video camera, and like I can think of about 30 instances of myself growing up, the things me and my brother did that my parents nowadays would be, if you ever took a video of some of the stuff me and my brother did, it would go viral and be like, who are these parents that let their kids, I don't know, we used to take gas and start fires. We used to drive the car. My brother was 12 driving the car to the store so me and him could buy candy. And I'm pretty sure we were wearing seatbelts. So, nowadays, imagine a 12-year-old kid getting caught going to the store with his 10-year-old brother.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm sure we're in the country, but it's just.
And that would be totally on the parents too. I mean, if that did hit the news,
it would be 100% on the parents. So you think nowadays, not only would you I think be in legal trouble, but also the public shaming of it. But
yeah,
I mean, it's in everything. It's in relationships. It's in body image. It's in what you do for your career. Like the heightened pressure is everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think I see this a lot of my friends who are parents. They're basically having fucking panic attacks 24/7. Am I feeding my kid the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Or what's, we had one of Heidi's friends come up, and she must have asked us 20 times if we thought it was okay that Tosca's in kindergarten and couldn't read yet. And then Heidi,
you were telling me that.
And Heidi starts getting all worried about it. I'm like, hey, settle the fuck down. Like, she's 5. She's not interested in reading. Who cares? And I said to the friend, I'm like, show me literature, because her son was 3 and could legitimately read. I actually tested him. I pulled a bunch of books out, and I actually tested the guy, and he could legitimately read. But I'm like, show me the literature that says reading at kindergarten has this effect at a certain age. She's like, well, I don't think it's there. I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll show you the literature that learning a second language. I'll show you the literature that you should stay within, like, this is the developmental stage your child's at. You shouldn't be pushing stuff on them.
Yeah. But
one person teaches their kid to read, and everyone freaks out that they're not doing enough. I'm like, everyone just needs to settle the fuck down and relax. Like, it's crazy. And I think it's almost the worst group is, and the most susceptible is young parents. Like, it's just a panic show.
Yeah.
And, the daycare our kids are at is great because it's a play-based daycare. The daycare our friend sent to was basically kindergarten. Their kid would sit there at a 3-year-old and do schoolwork.
Yeah, I see Mika running around TRU all the time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's what he should be doing.
Yeah,
He's 4.
Yeah.
Why would you want to try to put a pencil in that kid's hand? He doesn't want any part of that.
Yeah.
And I actually feel bad because we were a little more on it with Tosca when we had one kid in terms of the twin. Kaya is quite interested in reading.
Yeah.
We should be pushing it a little more because she's actually trying to spell things out, and she's in that stage where she's pretending to read. She's memorized a story. She's trying to read to people. So she's quite interested in learning how to read. Mm-hmm. But I still believe, okay, she's 4. She's going to pick it up. It's going to be fine. Yeah. So going back to Tosca, so as a kindergarten, she's not reading halfway through kindergarten. It was probably November, and now she's in grade 2, and she's reading at a grade 4 level in French and English, and she loves it. Yeah. And we don't have to tell her to read. She wants to read. She, even when Dad's at home by himself, Heidi went on a trip, and I wasn't even paying attention. Sort of bad dad, but she did it herself. She's like, Dad, I got to read before I go to bed. Great. And that's what you want. You want your kid wanting to do it, not you trying to force your kid to do it.
Yeah, the intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, and then there's a resentment built up.
Yeah.
And who hasn't been in the situation with a parent where you resent them over something?
Yeah.
It's inevitable. And, that leads to the other thing with parenting now is trying to be liked by the kid all the time.
Yeah.
It's fucking impossible to be liked by a teenager at all times.
You can't be your kid's friend. I mean, you can't be your
nobody
kid's best
can be
friend.
Nobody can be a teenager's friend all the time. Like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Teenagers are miserable. We were all miserable as teenagers and hated our parents at some point and hated our teacher and hated our best friend and had our hearts broken and whatever. Like, the hormones are raging. It's just virtually impossible to be on your teenager's side. I would feel probably awkward if my kids loved me all the way through. I'd be like, I probably didn't do something right then. And same as coaching, right? My line is like, I'm not your friend, I'm not your enemy. And if a guy goes through 5 years and never once was pissed off, maybe we didn't push him hard enough. Maybe the program didn't push him out of his comfort zone enough. And it's not even pushing, but it's like, maybe got to stay in his comfort zone too long. And there's been guys I think going through, like we were just talking about Brad Gunter, maybe he stayed in his comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that's potentially affecting his national team, ability to be on the national team. But, I just don't, for sure Brad wouldn't say we were friends all the time, but I just think there's that dynamic where everyone is scared to offend people. Everyone is scared to step out and be the authority or whatever you want to call it. And then you couple that with the fact that everyone thinks that everyone's judging them about their parenting, and it's just a gong show out there.
Yeah.
It's a recipe for disaster. And I just think everyone is too stressed out about everything right now. So maybe the legalized marijuana is going to help Canada cut the edge.
Yeah.
Cut the edge off. What do you think, Mulaney, about legalization?
Nothing's wrong with it. I believe all drugs should be legalized. I think the addiction rates plummet first thing something gets legalized. I think if we legalize everything, everyone has a government stream to the absolute best thing. If you can get the best cocaine with no fentanyl, people are going to get cocaine. People are going to
I agree with that.
People are going to get meth. So why not get the government meth that's the best that it can be so that you're not fucking around?
Well, and the government's already the biggest drug dealer in the world.
Yeah.
All governments are. Like OxyContin, you start reading the reports now when they first came out saying it wasn't addictive, and the FDA is like, okay, the company said it's not addictive, let's go.
Yeah.
OxyContin, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that stuff's addictive.
Yeah, well,
it's an opioid.
Yeah.
It's...
After my Achilles, I have a shit ton of Trimadol still because I tried to take as little as possible because I was cognizant of withdrawal, and then I ended up going through withdrawal anyways. But geez, that was fucking crazy. Good stuff. Oh yeah, that rocked my world.
I agree with drugs being legalized, and when people ask me why, I'm like, because the only thing that would stop me from getting any drug I want within 48 hours is somebody think I'm a cop.
Yeah.
Other than if they fully believed I wasn't a cop, I think in 48 hours I can get anything I want in Kamloops, and in 5 hours I can get anything I want in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Anything.
Less. I think less in Vancouver.
But I'd give myself 5 hours to make sure.
You go to East Hastings and you're soaring.
Yeah. Actually, New West SkyTrain Station is probably the better.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's right by Douglas College.
Listen up, kids.
You step off that SkyTrain station, you'll get asked by probably 10 drug dealers what you want.
Really?
At least that's how it used to be. I'm sure. Because the methadone clinic's in New West.
Yeah.
So that's where the heroin addicts get their legal methadone.
Yeah.
So there's already a huge demand for drugs there, and drug addicted people having to go to that SkyTrain station to get their fix. So it was always known as and I'm sure it still is, as a place where you get whatever you want. No, I'm glad they legalized marijuana. I want to see what the numbers are.
I'm waiting for psychedelics to get legalized. I think that's the next thing. I think that's the next invest button.
Won't be.
I think clinical trials are going to come through.
Yeah, clinically for sure. I just don't think there's going to be a bigger push for that.
Yeah,
pushback on that.
I don't think it's going to be full legalization because I don't think the government wants a bunch of kids running around on psilocybin mushrooms or LSD all the time. But yeah, clinically, I think it's.
They're already doing clinical. Psilocybin for sure is an antidepressant.
What is it? I think it was. I want to say John Hopkins, but that's probably wrong. But they did a study on psilocybin, and it had an 80% success rate of getting people to quit smoking.
Yeah,
that's unheard of. That's absurd.
Oh yeah. No, I actually. Well, anyways, I grew up in the West Kootenays. There's weed, people growing weed in their gardens growing up.
Yeah,
and I it's gonna be now as a parent talking to kids about marijuana, which you would have had to do anyways, regardless if it was legalized. But it's still about choices, and typically, if you look at people who are addicted to drugs, they're not usually happy people.
Yeah.
I just don't believe a normal happy person, now that weed's legalized, is going to go smoke marijuana and then all of a sudden be shooting heroin and be on the streets. I just don't think that happens. I don't think there's a path between trying this so-called gateway drug and then falling off the cliff. I think people that seek drugs are seeking an escape from reality.
Yeah. And
we all do that in some form or another, through entertainment, through books, through our iPhones. We're seeking an escape from reality, momentarily seeking an escape from reality, and people that usually addicted to drugs are just a little bit more motivated to escape reality or escape the pain or something in their life.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And there's usually a trauma effect to it. And so then it goes back to why not legalize it and let them have, like you said, legal access to what they feel like they need.
Yeah, and then the risk of fentanyl goes to zero. Not even necessarily just fentanyl, but the idea of overdosing. Also, educating people on how people overdose, because you never overdose in your house. I mean, that becomes a conditioned response that the only time people overdose is when they go somewhere else and try a new drug, because after a while of doing a drug in the same place all the time, your brain starts to break it down. Your brain starts to break the drug down before, and that comes into play with tolerance and how the higher your tolerance gets, I mean, you have a different tolerance for every place that you go. So if you shoot up heroin in your room every day, then your tolerance for heroin is going to get really, really strong in your room. But then if you go to a party and shoot up heroin, you shoot up the same amount, you're going to overdose because your brain's not breaking it down right away. And like, I think that's something that should be educated on more than, hey guys, just don't do drugs. Because kids are going to do drugs. Human beings for forever have been looking for an escape from reality. I mean, all religious doctrine and all art and stuff, like mushrooms.
Yeah, people like getting fucked up.
Yeah.
Whether it's booze or drugs, and absolutely it's been there for history.
The burning bush, like the Bible, all that shit. It's
yeah.
It's all over the place.
Yeah. Visions.
Yeah, the vision quests. You ever have any like good, I mean, not necessarily good vision quests, but like life-altering experiences from psychedelic drugs?
Have I?
Yeah.
No.
That's fair.
No. And I'm 48 now. I actually would be open to trying different things now. Like I you grow up and you're indoctrinated, like you're an athlete. You're like, oh, you don't do this, you don't do that. And in the Kootenays is a very clear line where I grew up. It's like there were skids and jocks, and I certainly tried marijuana as a kid. Yeah. And I just decided on my own and be like, I don't want to be a skid. I'm going to go to the light. I'm going to the jock side. And on the jock side, they didn't do. But I grew up with 70 hippies that left, draft dodging hippies. Yeah. They left the U.S. and moved to my area in the Kootenays, set up shop, and there was like quite a heavy population, ranging from living in the woods to a shack with no running water to have enough money to start a house. But almost every one of those parents would openly smoke marijuana. Like I'd go to my friend's house and their mom would be smoking marijuana at the kitchen table. Yeah. She'd be having a cup of coffee and a joint. So, I mean, I grew up with it everywhere. So for me, it wasn't crazy. Yeah. It wasn't something where I was like, whoa, that's on the far side of... But I decided to stop because I just felt like that's not who I wanted to be. And I just think now that marijuana is legalized, I think there's going to be more kids that it's not taboo. It's not crazy. They're like, I don't really like this. Yeah. And obviously I don't know why they picked 19 or if 19 is the right age. There's definitely arguments about the effects of marijuana on a developing brain versus a full-grown adult, much like there's alcohol. If you take it at different points of your development, it affects you differently. But yeah, I'm
like 25 is the age that you're like, marijuana stunts the growth of your prefrontal cortex, which is basically your decision making. So that's why guys make shitty decisions for longer than girls, because girls are finished developing their prefrontal cortex at 23.
Is that why?
Guys is at 25. Yeah, that's why. I'm gonna attribute it to that.
It's only a 2 year gap. A little bit more developed. I always thought it would have been like girls finish at 16, and guys finish at 25.
Yeah, we're just dumbasses for forever. Yeah, no, like
pretty much.
I think 25 is a good age, but it just seems unrealistic to space out alcohol legalization at 19, 18, and then throw marijuana in at 25. That seems...
Well, yeah, it's not realistic.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know that legalizing marijuana is going to stop a guy, the guy that was selling it. I think he still has a market.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the government's not selling it for an absurdly cheap amount. In the U.S. they are. In certain dispensaries.
Is this price here like way more than it would cost on the street?
Yeah.
Like how much more?
Like a small joint is like $8
in the government store.
Yeah.
And what would that be on street value? Like
maybe maybe like $3 or $4 because you don't buy like full joints on the street. But the old SunMed that was by TCC, that place was selling home derby baseball joints, just huge blunts for $6, and now the government's selling little joints for $8.
You can buy them pre-rolled already by the government.
Yeah,
like are they filtered?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
That place is out of business, all right? Sun, whatever. Didn't they close them all down?
Yeah, none of them had compliancy. I guess there was some old guy.
I don't know how people didn't think that was going to fucking happen. I knew the minute they legalized it, all those places are getting shut down.
Because I guess none of them got compliance. I guess Kamloops is the only place, at least at the start, with the legal distribution center.
Because we put all the paperwork in. Kelowna still has not.
Yeah.
Kelowna's a year away from opening a legal store.
I guess there was just some old guy that just crushed at every town meeting. They're like, hey, we got to do this and this and this. It's just like, okay, I got it. Don't worry about it.
No, I just feel like all these dispensaries, I knew they were getting shut down.
Yeah.
Why would the government let them? I just asked about the price because people, I was at some party and people were saying, well, people are still going to buy it from the street because it's cheaper. I'm like, I think most people, I could buy liquor potentially from a guy's garage that's cheaper, but I'm just not going to bother. Like, it's a hassle for, I think, a normal, regular human adult to like go down to the North Shore and try to buy marijuana at
it becomes a convenience thing. And maybe for,
I have a job. Talk about the fentanyl stuff. Like, if you have a job or whatever, that's where I'm going to get it. I just, it's not gonna. I think that guy's in trouble selling to normal people. It's as in adults with jobs. His market now will be still teenagers and people that don't have regular incomes.
Yeah, and maybe I think that lasts for like a year.
And I have lots of friends my age who smoke marijuana from university right till now.
Yeah,
I guarantee they're all going to be buying from the government stores when it's accessible.
It's just so convenient. You go in, get
and it's safer now.
Yeah,
the fentanyl
totally.
thing is which I just don't get. I don't get the idea of that. I guess drug dealers aren't doing it on purpose. They're trying to increase the power of their product, but I don't know if I had a guy I was buying stuff from and one day it almost killed me, I don't think I'd be very happy with that guy. Like, I just don't see that as a business model.
Yeah. It's like,
maybe he wouldn't know it was tainted, but still.
It's like half a grain of salt, you're getting really high, and then a full grain of salt and you're face
dead.
down in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah, and I just think that's a poor business model. If your business is providing recreational drugs and you're starting to kill people, it's a poor model for business.
You want to suck them in, get them addicted, and
maybe this is a conspiracy. Maybe the government was spreading the fentanyl around before they legalized, just to make sure people.
I could see it.
It's middle-aged people are like, "Whoa, hey, I'll pay whatever it costs."
Yeah,
I don't want any part of that.
Let's legalize this shit. 'Cause even.
But fentanyl was never that big in marijuana, was it? It was still more in cocaine and.
Yeah, I think so. I
don't know, but
I have no clue, but I think so. I never really heard of anyone dying from a fentanyl overdose from marijuana. It was always more chemical stuff.
Yeah.
Like that happens at COG every year. Just you hear about 3 or 4 deaths that fentanyl overdose.
So what's the program here, Mulaney? You got a program? You got a list of stuff, or?
No, we're just gonna shoot the shit for an hour, maybe 2.
Who's been on this?
Harry Coles from the men's soccer team. Kind of men's soccer.
English guy?
Yeah, he messed up his knee. Caleb Blair from the cheer team. She's super big into the whole mental health thing, so we talked about that a bunch. Venables was on it, but we lost like half the episode, and it happened to be the half that I liked. We talked a lot about a Netflix show called Big Mouth. Yeah. It's a show about puberty. Hilarious. It's like super.
Check it out.
Super duper good. It's pretty real in how it portrays everything.
Yeah.
And
I told Cam he should come on.
Cam? Seeks? Yeah. I'd love to have Seeks on.
He doesn't want to do it.
No?
Of course he doesn't.
Seeks doesn't want to do anything.
No.
Seeks wants
hey, if he knows he can have some pops,
I was going to say,
he might have a chance.
I'll get a 6-pack for him and he'll be.
It would actually be great. Like, even just talking to John, like, it'd be great if John's English was better.
Yeah. I was thinking, Sammy and I were talking about that, just getting him on and just like slowly talking about stuff.
I would wait like in 3 weeks his English will be way better.
Yeah. How long is he here for? 6 weeks? So.
February 24th.
Yeah. Then I'm gonna try to learn Korean from him. That way when I go over I'll have a good base.
I'm not exactly sure what he does during the day actually.
John?
I think he's hanging out with some Korean, like he went to church.
Yeah.
So we need to focus on. I think we need a program of like guys taking him out for lunch and
I would do that for sure.
forcing him to keep speaking English.
Yeah, that's the thing. Just
it's the
complete
only way.
immersion. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gotten way better too, which is
Oh, for
crazy.
sure. Yeah. Well, now he's at the girls' practice. That'll help.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you can come out and help in mine too. That'll be good. And coach some 15-year-old boys.
Oh yeah. That'll help. He's going to be disgusted at that. He's disgusted at half the stuff in our practice.
He's disgusted at our team.
Well, actually, the interesting part now is talking to Dr. M about it's totally changed the culture in Korea too. Like
Really?
the way John went through training, like I guess he was there when Tim Flanagan was there, so he was on SKK from like 2005 to 2009.
Yeah.
They played 4 years, and the level they trained then compared to now is different. It's not as hard.
Yeah.
And coaches aren't allowed to hit players anymore.
Yeah.
That changed about 4 years ago. And even just really go at players like they used to. But before, you were basically like you basically belonged to SKK.
Yeah.
He told me in the car his first 3 years he never went home. And I'm like, well, how far away is your home? Like the city, I think it was Daegu, and it's an hour by bullet train or an hour and a half by bullet train. 3 hours by car, and he didn't go home for 3 years. He like trained and.
Yeah, they get something like 6 days off a year.
They get a break, which surprised me because they always get a break around December when the seasons change over. But yeah, they train 6 days a week,
Yeah.
almost 11 months of the year. But on my sense now is they don't even do that as much anymore. They have bigger breaks.
Yeah.
And the whole culture is changing. Even around running, it's changed. Like he was telling me they used to run 8 kilometers a week, 3 times 8 a week, plus their regular sprints and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting to hear from Dr. The culture's changed there as well, and why wouldn't it? South Korea now is quite a bit wealthier. I visited in 96.
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty sure Hyundais were in Canada already, but they were a joke. Like they were the cheapest car that would break down. It was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now they're everywhere.
One of the top cars. Yeah.
Kias and Hyundais are everywhere, and there was no Kia anywhere.
Yeah.
So, anyways, their economy's better. And Dr. M says they're having less kids. You're more focused on those kids. It's no different when I already said like it was a lot easier with Tosca. It's 2-on-1 versus 2-on-3.
Yeah.
She had way more attention. She was ahead in her swimming, biking, reading, everything because she had more attention paid to her.
Yeah.
And then you have 5 kids, and obviously it's going to split even more. So he just, it's interesting to hear from him how it's changed in Korea. Because I wouldn't have thought it would have changed ever. And it has dramatically now in the last 10 years.
So those
Last
phones,
5 years.
Social media.
Yeah, for sure. Social media. And I still think some of the things they do are counterintuitive. Like
Yeah.
running doesn't help. Like you saw them running for an hour and 20 minutes before the match.
Yeah.
That type of running does not help you jump higher.
No.
I mean, it helps your fitness level.
Yeah. Unless they're smoking darts between runs.
They are all smoking still. I asked
Yeah.
John. He's like, the whole team still smokes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And somehow I think they try to hide it from the coaches, though.
Really?
I get the feeling John smokes all the time, too, but I've never seen him smoke.
I've never seen him smoke either.
But I get the feeling he smokes. Like, in our downstairs basement, there's always the outdoor light on. And yesterday I was like, why is that light on? I'm like, I think John goes outside. Why? I think he's smoking. Well, I don't know why you would go outside in the middle of the night and need the light on.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know why you hide it, but I get the sense that the Korean team smokes, but they don't want the coach to know.
I don't even understand. Like, I mean, you would smell it. Like at Jaffrey that one year when Manny was
Yeah.
smoking in the van, and then Bennett called Bird and I out, and he's like, "Hey, you guys can't smoke." And come
But
to
they
Coach
all smoke. But we left the sushi restaurant in Sun Peaks, and none of them fired up a dart. Whereas the head coach and Dr. M went out 5 times to have a cigarette during dinner.
That's insane.
So I don't know, but I asked him, John, straight out, does all the Korean guys smoke? He's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, volleyball is a sport that smoking really wouldn't affect your performance.
Oh, it's on. I mean, it's not a huge cardiovascular thing, so.
There's 0 cardiovascular.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still train cardiovascularly the level you need for volleyball and smoke, and it wouldn't really have a detrimental effect on your, I think, game performance.
Yeah.
you hear that, kids out there? If you want to play volleyball player, you like smoking cigarettes?
Pack a day.
No problem. Coach Hennelly said, no problem. You can smoke and be a good volleyball player.
It's gonna be my philosophy as a coach. All right, guys.
Maybe you come back from Korea.
Got the darts.
The habit.
Yeah, I'm gonna come smoke.
But what
between
is
sets.
great, like what's great about SKK visiting, I think, and even hosting John, which I didn't. John actually didn't know he was staying here until he got here. And then Dr. Ram was like, "You're staying." He's like, "What? You're staying?" Because I was wondering why he looked so kind of panicked.
Yeah.
Dr. Ram asked me last year if we could host him.
Yeah.
I said, "No, I'm not set up for it." And then this year, I thought my communication was clear. It didn't seem like Dr. Ram was clear, so maybe he didn't know for sure if we're going to host until he got here. And I'm like, "Yes, we were ready to go. We can. We've got it figured out." And so he didn't know he was staying until he got here.
I mean, he's got a fucking wife and kids back home. He's like, "All right, guys, I'll see you in 6 weeks when I'm allowed back."
He doesn't have. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a wife. Does he?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
But I said, "What do your friends think?" They're like, "Oh, they think it's crazy." Yeah, it's like getting abducted. You go for 2 weeks and you end up staying for 7 or 8 or whatever. So anyways, it's cool because we've already contacted Tim Flanagan and Kyle Donan, who are in Korea. Tim was the first guy we sent.
Yeah.
Then went Andy, then went Donan, and they were all. John was there through all 3 of those guys. So he'll see 2 of them when we go down and play Trinity this weekend.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's cool that there's still a connection there, and
yeah.
And he'd been here already in 2008 touring with SKK.
Yeah.
We played them in Cornell and Prince George. So yeah, it's funny to think though that you're still in. I just can't imagine as a 31-year-old, someone like Dr. Ram, like, now you're going to stay here. It wasn't, do you want to stay here? He's like, you stay. They take care of you. And I was there when he was kind of like, they take care of you, and he just looked confused, and I didn't really get it until he told me, like, I didn't know I was staying. So he had enough stuff packed for 2 weeks, and he's here for 8 weeks, which I loaded him up with some Wolfpack gear, so he should be fine. But yeah, it's still culturally quite different.
Yeah, no, totally. I think the whole break thing is really nutty. Even with U Sports, I think that's a pretty crazy thing. The amount of, especially volleyball, the duration of the season and the amount of breaks that people get. Like everyone does a Christmas tournament, so everyone's back on the 27th. Everyone hangs around until, I think we hung around till the 15th this year, and that was the earliest we've ever gone home. Like normally
we were done
hang around.
We were done on the 13th.
Yeah, and that's the
exams
earliest.
were done on the 15th.
Yeah,
I actually think we were not, wasn't the 12th the last practice, or was it the 13th?
I think it might have been the 13th.
Well, every year we get 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I've given 2 weeks every year. The shortest would have been.
Oh
like
no,
13
that's
days.
right. Yeah, because exams used to finish on the 22nd, which is also absurd that exams.
No,
go
our
that
exams
far.
never finished. I think 17th or 18th is the latest our exams have finished.
I think my first year they finished on the 21st. Like I had a crazy late exam, and
that
then
would be bad.
had to be back on the 27th.
Well,
and it's,
I know women's basketball was like 19th to 26th.
Yeah, no, I think they were left on the 21st, and they had to be back on the 27th. They had a 6-day break. I talked to Boston last night.
And the 27th was like 12 to 2. So if the girl from Saskatchewan would have had to come in on the 26th.
Fuck, like that's insane. I mean, I feel like you need a longer break in terms of mental health. You gotta reset a little bit. Take a step back from sports. Realize it's not the be all end all.
Well, I totally agree with the break. Like, and I've always tried to focus on a 2-week break for sure. But I've been an advocate of. I think our season's ridiculously long. It's getting longer.
Yeah,
we're starting next year, October 18th.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a week earlier?
It's a full week earlier than this year, which was early. We used to start like TRU.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like back in the olden days.
Yeah.
We've only been an institution for 15 years. We used to have our home opener either November 5th or November 11th. Because I've always hosted my high school tournament, the home opener, and the high school coaches loved it when it was Remembrance Day.
Yeah.
They're like, sweet, we don't have to get a sub. It's awesome. Like, keep it on that weekend.
Yeah.
And now I'm October 19th. Well, we're away that weekend, but still.
Yeah.
It's way too long of a season. And we had to push it back because we added a week of playoffs. Because it used to go first round, Final Four, Nationals. Now it's first round, second round, final, bronze, or whatever. We added a week of playoffs.
Right.
Yeah, and if or when Fraser Valley comes in,
Yeah.
I believe, and what I hope is our schedule will stay the same, and women's volleyball was going to go to a tiering or whatever. I have no idea what they're going to do. They've thrown out this tier 1, tier 2, like kind of like European soccer, where if you're the bottom of tier 1, you're in tier 2. You're the top of tier 2, you can move up.
Yeah.
And I'm not totally against it. I just think it goes back again. Like you put those 14 or 16 teams in a room as an athletic directors or coaches. There's no way you're going to agree on how to split the season. I'm like, split it up geographically. Everyone complains about how much it costs.
Yeah.
So let's start being real about what we need to. You need to split it up geographically. And they're like, well, what about Manitoba's got this history with UBC. I'm like, I've been on the coaching staff at UBC, and you go to Manitoba, and there's like crickets and tumbleweeds in the gym.
Yeah.
There's not 5,000 fans showing up for this so-called storied historical rivalry. Like, I just think we need to split the league in half, and then we can shorten everything. We can shorten everything down and get back to like sanity.
Yeah.
Because if we take off Thanksgiving next year, then our last possible exhibition is October 2 and 3. So we're going to be lucky to get 2 weekends of exhibition. And I was one of the first guys to start playing in September.
Yeah.
And all these old guys thought I was crazy. Like, why would you do exhibition in September? Like, hey, settle down, young guy. Like, we don't need that. And now everyone next year will be doing an exhibition in September.
Yep.
Based on need. You're starting in a month. We used to have a 2-month preseason.
Well,
now we got this friggin' training camp, which again, it's in response to Trinity doing training camp and UBC doing training camp.
Yeah.
I just wish in Canada they had the jam to make rules too.
Yeah.
There's no rules.
Yeah, because I mean Trinity brings guys in August, like mid to late August.
Yeah.
And they go on a trip.
I think it should be legislated.
Yeah.
I think you should, every 4 years you could take a trip and bring people in early, but other than that, no one should be in the gym before September 6th.
Yeah.
And I actually think the December break should be legislated as well. No one can train from these periods. This is a dead period like they do in the States.
Yeah.
You cannot be in the gym from December 15th to December 30th.
Yeah.
So just so you know, we're not doing a lot of preseason next year.
Oh, good. Jeez.
There's no time.
Yeah. Oh, good. And
I don't think well, who knows? I could be wrong, but I think we'll be at least still on the veteran side of things, so potentially not needed. But I kind of plan on it being lighter.
Yeah.
And now it's almost a necessity.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to play on Thanksgiving, but it's probably going to be inevitable. I don't know when they're going to run Dino Cup. I don't know when he's going to run Sofaland. I don't know when they're going to run BBC wants to. They're talking about resurrecting their Thunderball tournament. So there's 3 tournaments. There's nothing, even 3 weekends.
Yeah.
Like.
No, it's insane. Like I think especially volleyball. I mean,
so we need basketball's better now because they split it up. They used to be the same, but I mean, we need a rule to save ourselves from ourselves. That's essentially what has to happen now.
Well, even soccer brings guys in 2 months early in the summer, month early.
Yeah.
Like they bring guys in late July, so people can't even get jobs. That's the thing, is that
they can be working now though.
Yeah, I guess so. That's true. Yeah, they could be working in the second half, but
they could be working from November.
Yeah.
When was Nationals?
I think it's November.
Yeah.
First thing Nationals finishes, but
December, January, February, and they do a spring league too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should just can the whole thing. Sports.
We'll just exit.
I wish it was a NCAA season of like a 4-month season.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, okay, it's insane for that 4 months. Our schedule is still insane. We have a 7-month year, and it's insane.
Yeah.
And the women's volleyball coaches are the ones that wanted to get rid of Final Four, and like I want to go to Final 8.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, well, we need to ensure the best team is going to make it. Okay, this is sport, man. Like, are we going to start best of 7s now? Like, hey, Canada West first round, best of 7, home and away. Like, fuck, let's just get on with it. What's the most exciting tournament in the world?
Worlds.
No, the most exciting. Like, what do you think the most exciting tournament and famous tournament in the world is? Come on, Mulaney. NCAA men's basketball.
Okay.
Women's basketball.
March Madness. Yeah.
March Madness. Why is it so famous? Because anything can happen. It's one off. Boom. 2 teams show up full of teenagers. Number 1 seed.
Last year, first 16
Yeah.
16 wins.
Yeah, and when people say upsets are like 3 versus whatever, those aren't really the huge upsets people think they are when
Yeah.
there's 330 teams they're ranking people out of.
Yeah.
But it's exciting for that fact.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, it's just a bunch of teenagers, man. They could lose. I'm actually surprised there's not more upsets in that tournament. But that tournament and format is exciting for that reason. Now,
Yeah.
does that ensure the best team is going to win all the time, that format? No, for sure, a 2 out of 3 or, there's a reason why professionals sports play best of 7s.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't disagree with that, but let's get real here. Like, let's do a best of 8, final 8 Canada West, and there's a final 8 for the national title.
Yeah.
2 weekends.
Well, I think the reason that
Then we could roll back 2 more weekends or 3 more weekends of our season.
Yeah.
Or have a break going to nationals, whatever we want to do. But I don't even really want to play January 3rd and 4th.
Yeah.
That's a stupid weekend to play right across the country. There's no one here.
That's right after.
It's hard enough to get people in the second semester to come out anyways, and no school's not in session.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are we playing when school's not in session? No one seems to have the answer other than we've jammed the shit out of our schedule, and there's nowhere else to go now. And again, someone needs to save us from ourselves. Like, you can't get 10 coaches to agree on anything. And people always like, oh, you're part of the athletic department, everyone must kind of work together. No, nobody really gives a fuck about anyone else. It's everyone's in a silo, and they're focused on their thing.
Yeah.
And I would think guys on the team would want me 100% focused on trying to get the best for our team. And so then you take that across 10 volleyball coaches and try to agree on a schedule that is either the best for volleyball or no, not a chance.
Yeah.
Then you bring it to athletic directors, not a chance. Like, I don't think it's going to change for the good. I wish it would, and I wish we could go to U.S. style where it's 4 months.
Yeah. It would
Like
make
soccer.
sense.
Soccer, I think,
Yeah.
is a perfect season.
Yeah. Soccer's got
As
its own
shitty it
season.
is to come in the summer,
Yeah.
it's still over. There's still some free time to
Totally.
do things.
I mean,
And to focus on being a student.
Yeah, exactly. The past few months of being only a student, not showing up to volleyball practice all the time. Holy shit! Like I've learned who I am as a human being.
Yeah, and it's not the same. Like, I coached in the 90s UBC. Our schedule is different.
Yeah.
We're training at a higher level. There's more focus on it. I think there's a little more. There's a little higher level of guys coming in as well, like a little more prepared physically. But anyways, yeah, it's. I don't like the schedule.
I mean,
I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah. Nobody gets the chance to become just a student. When you're a student athlete, you're only a student athlete. You don't. I think we get 1 month. 1 month if you play the whole season, make nationals, you get 1 month to just be a student. And even then, teams train.
It's not. It's not even a month.
No,
Yeah.
like teams train through that. I mean, women's soccer started training. They had 2 weeks off, and they started training again.
Ken had rules about how long you were supposed to take off after the season's
Yeah.
over and Christmas break. But like, again,
Well, especially soccer. I mean, you don't play for another 8 months. Why not give the kids until the next semester, and then they get the chance to become a student and like develop friend groups that are only within their sport.
if you're gonna do something, bring him in before the season starts.
Yeah,
It's kind of post-season training at the best of times is painful. At the best of times, so yeah, I would think. Well, maybe the new soccer coach is going to listen to this and get a tip from that. Like,
yeah,
hey, when your athlete's complaining, maybe give him a couple more weeks off after the season's over.
yeah, that makes
Did
sense.
they really train that hard
Women's soccer
in season?
Yeah, I
like
think
who?
so. Yeah, I mean, they just train all the time. Do a shit ton of workouts. I mean, you burn out. I agree. I mean,
I don't look at, and I think they're fitter than they like. Like, I don't.
I see women's soccer in the gym more than I do any other team, without a doubt.
Actually, you're right. I do see women's soccer players in the gym.
There's the girl that Ryan's dating, Ainley. She could beat his ass in a second. She looks like a rugby player. She could snap him in half.
See the one that has like kind of dyed blonde hair?
Yeah, the platinum hair.
Silver?
She could.
Yeah, I
beat
see her in the
shit
gym all
out
the
of
time.
him.
I didn't even know she was a soccer player.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, anyways, yeah, my sense was like I didn't get the sense, but I don't know that they trained harder than any other team.
I think I'm not sure if they.
Like, was that coach driven or player driven? Like they're
I think a lot of it's player driven.
They're in the weight room though. They're individuals in the weight room.
Yeah,
Is that
like
the program they were given?
I think it's a lot more player driven than it is coach driven. I know that there's a redheaded girl on the soccer team that I see every day at the gym.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they did work harder.
2K.
Well, one of the issues, and every athlete should have a voice, and it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out because, the perception is like a bunch of soccer players complaining and the coach got fired.
Yeah,
which is fine. I mean, I don't think that's the whole story, but it again is another symptom of our time, and I think everyone should have a voice. Like if there was unreasonable training going on or something, my perception from the outside looking in, and I'm very limited. Like again, I'm in a silo. I don't really care about other teams. I don't even really know how women's volleyball trains for that fact, like day to day. But I never got this feeling. The rumor in the athletic department was like women's soccer is training like crazy, like overtraining. I don't think that, from my understanding, that wasn't the reason.
Yeah.
So, anyways, whatever the reason was, but it goes back to again like schools and I don't know. I just find there's a lowest common denominator thing that we always have to drag people down to the lowest common denominator. Like, hey, I was tired. I don't really give a shit if one person's tired. Like, that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
But and that, unfortunately, the way people are raised now, like you should have a voice. Of course, you should have a voice. But you feel like you said that voice now, like I mustered the courage to say it. Why isn't my needs getting taken care of? It's like, hey, unfortunately, this is kind of part of it.
I think that's the shitty thing. People don't understand that
if you can't get anywhere without being sore, tired, uncomfortable,
exactly.
Like everyone has this vision of like, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. And then you're like, okay, fuck, that's great. Let's make a plan. Let's put it on paper. Let's get this going. Hey man, I'm sore. Yeah, that's part of like working hard. Like, oh, I'm a little bit tired. I'm like, yeah, that's also part of working hard. Hey, it didn't happen right away. Yeah, no, never happens right away. And then people lose that muster.
Yeah. That's the whole lawnmower parent thing too. Like if as a child you're not allowed to suffer, I think suffering becomes a necessary part of your development. You got to go through some shitty stuff, and then stuff gets a little bit easier. Every time you go through a shitty thing.
Yeah, I was just in England, and my cousin married an older guy, and they're on their second. He's on his second family, and 2 years ago they had to talk him out of moving his 7-year-old son to Spain, to basically a village where he would get like have to fight through like being on a poor soccer team and having to fight through and get a tough edge to him about like basically get some street sense and toughness to him because he's growing up rich in England and he's soft and whatever, and it's like there's something to be said for that though, because it's hard as a human being to be like push yourself when you've got all your needs are met.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had countless guys in my office broke up with their first girlfriend and their heart's broken, and I can be a little bit of a dick sometimes, and I'm like, hey, you're never gonna know love until you basically get your heart broken. Like it's hard to know if you're really in love.
Yeah.
It's also hard to know like how many times in life do people feel hunger in this world. I think when I started fasting, I look back and I'm like, I don't think I was hungry for like my entire life.
I did a 3-day fast coming back from Phoenix, and
How was
it was better than I thought it would be, and at the same time it was worse. There'd be
which
times
day
where
did it hit you?
Day 2 was fucking bad.
Yeah, day 2 is bad.
Day 2 was really bad. Day 3 wasn't awful. Day 3 night was because I ate on day 3 night.
Oh, okay.
And
I've only done 3 or 4. Day 3 gets bad when I start thinking about what I'm like.
Yeah.
What my meal's going to be. Then my mouth starts to water, and that's the only time I have physical pain.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking about the meal I'm going to eat in 3 hours, that's the mistake I've made, and I've broken it twice. I broke it before the full 72 hours because I'm planning eating at 7. I'm like, I am not going to wait till 7. I am going to eat at 4. Like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
But day 2 is a tough one.
I was sitting in the
going to bed in day 2 has always been hard for me.
Yeah. I was sitting in the airport, and there's like I fucking love like shitty Chinese food, like Manchu wok, Oriental wok kind of stuff. And I just like walked by, smelt it, and that was the most pain I've ever felt. In terms of hunger, that was bad.
I'm still blown away by how many people freak the fuck out when you talk about fasting. Like somehow you can't eat. Like even when I was doing it and Hawkins was around.
Yeah.
He's like, how is this possible? I'm like, Hawk, I haven't eaten in a day and a half, and I'm right beside him doing the spin class. He's like, you're going to fall off the bike. I'm like, it's not going to be an energy system that stops me. It's going to be my cardiovascular, my general fitness will stop me before food. And when you learn to not panic about it, it's okay. But again, we would not have survived as a species if we couldn't go prolonged times without food.
Yeah.
Whether it's healthy or not, I think it's a good mental exercise to stretch it out a little bit. And going back to this parenting thing, I just can't fucking believe the level of snacking we've fucking put our kids through now. It's fucking unreal. People look at you like there's 30-minute soccer practice and they're like, we need snack time. I'm like, what the fuck? 4 water breaks and a snack in 30 minutes? Like, I don't even want to put my kid in that. Actually, we didn't put the twins in that because I said it was such a waste of time. And these parents are like legitimately concerned their kid needs a snack in a 30-minute soccer fucking practice. I'm like, give me a break. You should get fed 3 times as just a person.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's something, because everyone tells me, when I start to press parents, like, why do you think your kid needs food all the time? Like, they're going to get cranky. Okay.
It's like, good.
They're going to get cranky.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to learn to deal with that. Like, yeah.
That's a huge thing, is giving into that immediately. Anytime
and
someone
the same
gets
with
cranky,
bedtime,
pissed
right?
off, yeah.
Our kids have gone to bed, like, obviously Christmas, we don't care and whatever. They're a little bit off. So today, Mika's tired from last night. Cried like 3 times today. Okay. Talked about it. Hey, you're crying because you're cranky or whatever. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, it's just people think it's the end of the world that their kid would feel like this momentary pang of hunger.
Yeah.
So you better smash some fishy crackers in his mouth just in case. Because I when I first started seeing this snacking phenomenon, I'm like, I remember saying to my mom, like, did I have a snack all the time? I remember just being starving sometimes, crawling home, and I would have ate anything you put in front of me because I was starving. It's the reason I came home.
I remember, I
didn't get snacks packed for me all the time.
I didn't get I had 3 meals a day, and then if I came home and really wanted a snack, I got water. That was it. Yeah. I got
water and beaten. Beaten and put in a closet.
I remember being
That's
so
what happened
pissed
to
off
Mulaney
all the time.
Yeah. Well, I get it and I don't get it. But parents now, man, and I actually see these kids now, and they're already fatty. And I was reading, it was a Michael Pollan book. Could have been the Omnivore's Dilemma, but they're talking about how kids in America look now. They look like animals that you fatten up for slaughter.
Yeah.
Like, you see these kids now, and they got this layer of fat everywhere on their body. They're fatty little sausages, and then their parents are like, I see them with a handful of fishy crackers, and I just want to swat it out of their hands. Like, stop eating that stuff, man. Look at your kid. He's already fat. He's 7, and there is literature, and I fully believe this. When you're fat when you're younger, you're predisposed to be fat when you're older. Like, fat cells have a memory, and fat cells can expand, right? And that's why liposuction doesn't work. You can suck the fat cells out. Fat cells can multiply. So fat people have more fat cells.
Yeah.
So when you lose the weight, you're still going to have more fat cells. That's why it's easier to gain weight. Anyways, so you're sentencing your kid to being basically fat.
Yeah.
And again, I just went to Costco today. People probably think I'm crazy because I go to Costco now. I park. I run in. So I'm trying to save time.
Yeah.
I feel like time is the one thing that I think time is the one thing people don't value as much as they should.
No,
we talk about
absolutely.
money and things and whatever, and we don't talk about time. That's why this is a big deal for me, Mulaney. It's my time here.
Fight.
So I'm at Costco, and I park far away, and I laugh at people that are looking for their close parking spot. I run in. I go to the hard right. I run all the way to the back end to the meat section because that's where I want to go. There's no devices I want. There's no clothing I want.
Yeah.
And I go through Costco, and the thing that resonates with me, people move slow with their mouths half open, and everyone is fat in there. Took Tosca to her first cross-country ski lesson. Everyone is skinny at the cross-country skiing. Here's a surprise. Hey, cross-country skiing, you're skinny. Go to Costco, you're a fat ass. It's ridiculous. And then in my head, I always make mooing and bowing sounds when I'm going through Costco as people move super slow. Yeah. They're probably like, who is this crazy bastard running? I fucking put my cart down sometimes when it's too congested. Sprint in, grab my broccoli out of the cooler, and fucking run out. And I don't take my cart to the milk section. I run to the milk section, grab and go. I went in there with Oli, and he was parking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, meet you in the food court. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm going to be done by the time you park this car and get your old ass in here. I will be done in the food. And I was in the line waiting for him. I'm like, go stand in line so we don't have to waste time. He's like, what's your problem? I'm like, I got to go, man. I can't. Yeah. This place makes my skin crawl. It's just, and then the worst thing is the fat parents with the fat kids in Costco. And I'm like, hey, you don't need more food for less money. You need less food, period. Actually, you don't need to supersize anything in this fucking family.
Yeah.
I just want to go to the cart and start throwing things out of the cart. Don't need this, don't need this, don't need this, don't need this. Keep the vegetables. Get out of here.
Well, man, being in Mexico is fucking crazy. They have the highest obesity rate for children in the whole world.
Yeah.
But
what's that from in those poor villages? Sugar?
All they eat down there, all they drink is Coke.
Yeah.
So they only drink Coke.
And their Coke is better. Did you notice that?
I didn't drink any of it.
Cane sugar.
I cannot. Oh, cane sugar is actually really good. That's Jones Soda too.
Yeah.
I used to crush Jones Soda.
It's better.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. The high whatever corn syrup is not as good.
No. Cane sugar is better for you as well. But that's all they do.
It just tastes better.
They just drink Coke and they eat tacos. There's no vegetables. There's no fruit. That's it. It's just
what about the beans, man? No one's eating beans.
No beans. No beans. Not in San Felipe, at least. I mean,
it's a misnomer that the Mexicans eat a lot of beans.
I'm sure they do, but this is like a really, really poor fishing village, and they don't even. Hey, the government illegalized a bunch of the fishing too. So
you can't be too poor for beans, man. Beans got to be cheaper than Coke.
Yeah, but that's all they drink is Coke, and they just eat tortilla and corn flour.
I actually think our childhood of BC is better than it was 10 years ago. North America, I think it's getting better.
I think the education system is helping a lot with that. But yeah, totally to your point that if you're fat, you stay fat.
It's harder to break the cycle.
You can't, we're learning about this right now in sociology, which is cool. But if you put on weight, the human body's really fucking bad at losing weight. Because if you put on weight, then you're expecting an ice age. So you're expecting you want as much fat as possible. So when you put on weight, the likelihood that it comes back is within a year. You're within a kilogram of what you were. So there's no point in yo-yoing up and down because then that's absurdly
That's what one of my buddies told me when I lost a bunch of weight. He's like, why'd you bother? You're just going to gain it back. I'm like, I'm not gaining it back.
So yeah, what was your...
And I call them all fat bastards now all the time. Hey, listen, you fat bastard. I'm not gaining it back. You need to drop some weight. So you're gonna, and I'm like, you're going to die a horrible death. That's one of the lines to my buddies that are overweight. You know it's going to get horrible at the end. Like, it's not a good outcome when you're obese.
Yeah.
There's very little good outcomes when you're obese. In terms of, you might live to 90. It's going to be god-awful from freaking 70 to 90. It's going to be miserable. Someone's wiping your ass. You're not going to be able to go to the bathroom by yourself. You don't want to live like that. It's fentanyl time. It's like...
that's someone that dies.
I was basically 265-ish. Hard to say. I think at some point I must have hit 270. Yeah. Because I weighed myself in. It wasn't the heaviest I was. And then I got down to, the lowest I got down to was 212, and I'm about 225 right now. And I've definitely added some muscle.
Yeah.
I don't know how much. I think we always over attribute how much muscle we add when we work out. We're like, I'm working out, man. Muscle weighs more than fat. I'm good. I'm good. I'm it takes more than 2 weeks to actually gain muscle. But
yeah,
I know for a fact when I go lift weights now, and I definitely am stronger than I was for sure. I mean, I told Ryan Adams this, when I first started, I would struggle to do 10 solid push-ups.
Yeah.
And I'm confident I could do 50 push-ups.
Yeah.
Going from 46, I guess I was, to 48. And I think it also is a bit of a lie when people say you can't gain weight, and you get this thing that says well, of course that's going to happen as you get older. You're going to get fatter and out of shape and not as strong or whatever. And yeah, if you let yourself.
Yeah.
But I think the human body, again, is adaptable and wants to keep fat if it can, but also the human body wants to be strong and agile.
I was going to say, you want to survive. That's the goal, survive and reproduce.
I don't think anyone back in the olden days at 40 was like, hey, it's over now. I'm just going to let people feed me. There was no one to feed you.
Yeah.
You either provided something or...
Well, that's a really interesting thing that I've found with
off in the...
Injury in old people's homes is the best way to run an old person home is let the old people do as much as they physically can.
Yeah.
You don't want to do any more because then they start to rely on other people, and then you lose a sense of self because then the line gets blurred between the shitty excuse you have and who you really are as a person. And
Well,
that was,
I just know this from everything now. Like before, it used to be like you get injured, like, hey, sprain your ankle, 4 weeks on the couch.
yeah,
No, that's not the way you do it now. And the same as with aging, exactly. Like I think when you stop moving, it's over.
yeah,
When I hear friends' parents, and my friends' parents are all in their 70s now, and unfortunately, a lot of them are dying. One of my best friends' dad just died of cancer. But when you start to hear like, yeah, they just don't get out much anymore, or they're not doing anything, it's one thing to retire, but it's one thing to stop moving.
yeah,
And again, when I hear people like the excuses we make and other people make, like why they're not going to work out, why they're not going, I don't have time, I don't have this. I mean, my body can't handle it. I'm like, you just need to stop eating and go for a walk.
Yeah.
They're like, it can't be that simple. I'm like, it is that simple. I fucking guarantee anyone, if you've walked 45 minutes a day, every day, you're going to lose it 10% of your body weight in 3 months.
yeah,
Do nothing else different. So I have buddies that are like, hey, well, I'm not going to give up beer and I'm not going to give up this. I'm like, you don't have to. There's ways you can do it without giving up anything.
yeah,
But you still have to do it. And then when I get people like, I don't have time, I'm like, don't make me ask you what you do with your fucking day to say you don't have 45 minutes, because that's bullshit.
yeah,
Pure and simple. And I get that from players all the time, like, oh, I don't have time, coach. I just think if there was a gun to your head, you would find the time. Like if it was life or death, if it was a sense of urgency, if it,
I think
there's time for sure, and we
Yeah.
make excuses because how much of our life is spent on doing things, again, that are time killers.
Yeah, just monotonous bullshit. I mean,
Yeah, we're at a point in society now, talk about the fall of the empire, where we're finding ways to amuse ourselves.
yeah,
Because it's not about putting food on the table. It's not about getting where you want to go. Like it didn't take me any energy to get here today.
yeah,
It took me 20 minutes. It took me zero energy. Now, 150 years ago, you're like, hey, Pat, you want to come over to my house? And I guess it wouldn't be a podcast. I'd be writing this down. I'd be like, yeah, Josh, that's, the horse isn't ready, or
yeah,
I'm fucking going to walk or ride my bike. Like,
start a pilgrimage.
that's different. That's time and energy. That's energy what it took me. But we don't have a struggle anymore to put food on the table, especially in North America for most people. Put food on the table, get where we're going. We're not expending energy on that. And unfortunately, most of our jobs now are not anything to do with manual labor at all.
Yeah,
And that trend will continue. So yeah, we box ourselves in, and then we spend, I don't know. I actually didn't know your phone could tell you how much time you spend on your phone. But next time one of my buddies tells me he doesn't have time, I'm going to grab his fucking phone and be like, hey, put 4 hours on your phone today, fatty. Hey, you had 4 hours, you could have done something.
yeah.
Or walk around with your phone in your hand, then, if that's what you want to do.
Well, like
It's amazing, actually. I've looked at my phone over the holidays, and
Yeah.
I was averaging 4 hours a day. And I'm reading on my phone,
Yeah.
but still, it doesn't matter. I'm on my phone for 4 hours a day.
yeah,
Whatever I'm doing on my phone isn't life or death. And very little of it is actually work. I can say I'm checking, like, in case the all-star recruit fucking emails me, but I'm not really.
yeah.
That's not really what I'm doing on my phone.
Well, like before, I remember in my first year thinking, holy shit, there's not much time for anything. And now it's like 6 classes, practicing full time.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you're gonna have kids leaning, and you're like, holy shit, I wasted a lot of time.
Well,
As soon as I had the twins, I'm like, fuck, what was I doing before? I guess I was doing nothing. Hey, John, you want to get on the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, go talk to John. But yeah, like my mom's boyfriend, they're less. He's 96. His life growing up was about putting food on the table.
Yeah. Well, I think the further away we get from that, the
He
more
talks about his friggin' salt pork in the corner. That was his fridge. He didn't even have a fridge growing up.
Really?
Chunks of ice and sawdust and a barrel of salt pork. And he's like, you scoop out a piece of meat with some lard and you fry that up and you throw some potatoes in there, and that's a good meal. Salt. And actually now they're saying, I don't even know if it's true. I don't even know where I read it, but they're like, hey, lard is actually not bad for you.
oh, fat's good for you. That's what
No,
you
but they're
want.
talking about lard versus like vegetable oil, like good
Yeah,
old fashioned
yeah,
lard.
yeah, yeah.
Which there was no canola oil back in the 1930s. I don't even know what other oils they wouldn't have used olive oil.
No.
There's not a chance people even knew what olive oil was back in the 30s and 40s in Canada.
The only thing that I cook with is avocado oil, coconut oil, and then I use olive oil if I'm not cooking. Because it changes the molecular structure of it if you heat it to a certain temperature.
Olive oil is good up to about 400.
Yeah.
It's actually okay to saute and.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like before this year, I thought that there was no time ever. I always made really shitty excuses. And now it's like, hey, like I'll be hanging out with someone. They're like, oh, what do you do? Like, oh, I had 6 classes, full-time student athlete. I coach a team, do a podcast. Oh, like what are you doing? Oh, like I have no time to do anything. I'm in 3 classes. Like I go to class and people bitch and complain about not being able to get homework done. It's like, oh, yeah. What were you doing? Yeah, I just went on a Netflix binge. What the fuck are you doing? What are you like? You're so
pretty happy there was no Netflix back when I went to school.
Yeah, you fucking lucked out.
I remember, this is how old I am now. I remember it was like me and my buddy from the Kootenays were so entranced by not MTV, Much Music.
Yeah.
We watched it for like, I can't even remember. In a weekend, we probably watched in 48 hours, we probably watched 36 hours of Much Music because we were so.
There's music videos or what?
Just videos, yeah. We were in the Kootenays. We didn't have cable. It was like mind blowing. 1988, we're like, wow.
You know,
music videos.
Tube TV.
Yeah, well.
You guys are facing it.
I still remember getting a color TV.
Yeah.
The first people on the block. We were one of the first people on our block to get a VHS. Actually, we started with Beta. My dad bet on Beta hard. It's better technology. He took that to the bitter end. VHS was just crushing it. He's like, Beta's better. It's better. Hey, no one's listening, Dad. You can't even rent. I was like, Dad, we can't even rent Beta anymore. We can't even. So we actually we were pirating back then. We would get the VHS and we'd tape it onto Beta. Mm-hmm. I don't know why we taped all those movies. We never watched them again, but we always rented movies and taped them. So we had like 100 Beta movies in our house. Probably should have kept some of those heirlooms.
Should have kept the Beta.
Yeah, well, even now DVD, people look at you like you're from a fucking different era.
Yeah, my
like,
grandma
hey, I got a DVD, and they're like, well, how would you play that?
My grandma has thousands of DVDs.
Yeah.
Like, that is thousands wasted.
No, not if she has a DVD player.
But it's cool. And just awful movies, too. I'm talking.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why anyone would. Well, Netflix is taking care of that now. Like,
Sharknado.
No one ever now would want to. Because Netflix has got every shitty movie imaginable.
Yeah.
For your on-demand consumption.
Even YouTube is like going off now. YouTube's starting to produce their own content, and you can look up anything on YouTube and go on this crazy binge of everything.
So how does YouTube not get charged with copyright when people pirate stuff on their medium? They're just the server for someone to pirate, because you can get movies on YouTube now, right? Like
you can buy so you can rent movies on YouTube, but you can't.
What if somebody takes an illegal copy of whatever, puts it on YouTube?
They'll take it down.
They'll take it down?
Yeah, just instantly. Yeah.
I have been on YouTube maybe 3 times in my life. That's not watching a video that a kid sends me.
Yeah.
I've been on like 3 times in my life.
It's fucking awesome. I just crush lectures. Like, I'll wake up in the morning, make some breakfast, and just watch a few lectures. Because there's everything. Everything.
Yeah, I know.
Charlie just watches camping shit all the time. Like, everything's on YouTube now.
Yeah, but that's why I don't want to go on YouTube, because it's a fucking wormhole.
Oh, 100%.
It's a vortex, and I'll get stuck in that vortex.
You start YouTube at 6 p.m. and
I'm actually
look up at 4 a.m. and realize you're watching cat videos.
I've just realized, too, that I'm not sick of podcasts, but I have to expand my podcast now. I'm a little bit sick of like kind of the self-help, and
I have to go back and forth from music and podcasts, because I'll normally listen to a podcast and think about it for a day, but I can't do like 2 or 3 podcasts in a day, because after a while I'm like,
oh yeah, and I don't walk regularly anymore. I want to get back to walking more for like listening to podcasts than the actual walking part of it.
So my second, you took a sabbatical, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Just for my second year, what was the catalyst for that? And then, because holy shit, you came back like you went out to the back and shot Pat Hennelly.
Yeah,
buried him in a
the
ditch
catalyst.
somewhere.
The catalyst for that was, well, there's a lot of things. Like even before having Tosca, I probably took the job too seriously.
Yeah.
And it affected a lot of my life. So I was working on that a little bit, and then we had Tosca, which obviously was great because it, and I say this, like, having Tosca should have changed my behavior more than it did. A little bit to my embarrassment, it didn't. But then we lost the baby between the twins and Tosca, which was a pretty hard blow. Like, I'll never forget Ken Olenek, my old boss, was running towards me, and I'm like, and I'd never seen Ken run before. I'm like, that's not good. Big Ken is like full fucking steam, looking at me. Something's gone. You get the feeling, right? Like, well, he's not running up here to be like, hey, we're gonna give you a raise, or hey, something happened. Like, like, this isn't good. And that's when he's like, hey, you gotta. Heidi's at your mom's place. Something's wrong. I get there. The ambulance is there. We go to the hospital. From the time Ken came into my practice at 4. The baby was born at 5:30 and lived for 6 hours. And in the entire time the baby was alive, I was, first of all, trying to understand really what had happened.
Yeah.
The weather was bad, so they would have flown us to Vancouver if there was a chance, but the weather was too bad. There was no flights going in and out, which is probably better because I don't think the baby would have survived 23 weeks. And I mean, I didn't know then, but there's a massive difference between 23 weeks and 24 weeks. There's a massive difference between 23 and 5 days versus 23 and 6 days. Even 24 hours can make a difference.
Yeah, anything at that point.
So obviously that happened, and then we had to go through the process of the twins being in the hospital, and obviously, it's not even obviously. I went through the process after realizing 23 weeks isn't viable. Then we're in the hospital, and up until the the water broke on Mika. So Heidi went in at, I was at the CIS Nationals in Calgary.
Yeah.
And when I got the call again, like, Heidi's going to the hospital to get her cervix stitched up. So I managed, I think, to get on. I was in the cab talking to the travel agent, and I got on that flight. From when I got the call till I was on the flight was about an hour and 15 minutes. So I get there, she goes into surgery, she's on bed rest, and starting there, I had to live with Heidi's parents, who are great people, but it's a high stress situation.
Right.
And yeah, things were just like imploding all around me. And I look back now, and I think I actually handled a lot of it okay, but it just became a point where I'm like, and I said to Ken straight out, I'm like, you either find a way to give me a year off, or I'm going to burn this house down. Because I'm not going to quit.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start calling in sick, and you're going to find someone else to go on road trips. So, Ken, if you don't want to go to Winnipeg to coach men's volleyball, then you better figure out a way to make this happen. Because we had talked about a sabbatical. We talked about a leave of absence. And he's like, well, you can take any time you want off without pay. I'm like, hey, I still have a family, Ken.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. And he's like, well, no one will approve it. I'm like, well, if nobody gives a shit here, then I'm burning the house down if you can't figure this out.
Yeah.
And I look back at that, and I'm like, maybe that's not the best way to do it. But 24 hours later, he's like, you've got your year off. So for me, and probably 3 times before that, I told Heidi I was going to quit coaching because I was internalizing it and taking it, the living and dying with the team and how things were going was like, for me, I was too invested in that. And I had realized at that point, even with Tosca, like, hey, this is not making me a better parent or a better husband. So she had talked me out of quitting. And at that point, I was like, this isn't going to happen. Like, this is not making my life. The path I was on was not the path I wanted to be on. I guess is the best way to put it. So, yeah. And I actually didn't do shit until January of my sabbatical is when I really started getting things going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had written down a bunch of my intentions, and it wasn't until it's probably January 2nd where I really kicked it into gear. That's when I first did that keto OS.
Yeah.
Which, there's some stuff that happened with that keto OS, man. I don't know what's in that stuff, but 2 things. Stuff that came out of me was terrible, and I was not hungry for the first time in my life. That was the first time.
The keto S, what is that?
Keto OS is just exogenous ketones.
Yeah.
So you have it with like coffee in the morning. It's like a powder.
Okay.
And I wasn't hungry. I was doing, that was the first 24 hour I was doing. The guy I would talk to, one of my friends is still doing it. He sells it, and I talked to him about it. So I was eating one meal a day, a high fat meal a day, and which I thought was impossible.
Yeah.
So the first 2 days I was like, this is not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I must have drank. I bet I drank 20 plus cups of coffee and tea those first 2 days.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, I just
amazed you're
kept
alive.
I just kept drinking like hot liquids,
Yeah.
non-caloric hot liquids. And then day 3 I wasn't hungry. And I was like, wow, what is in this stuff that I'm not hungry right now? Like I actually felt a little bit high, and I realized I've gone through that with fasting too, where I just feel like everything's clear, and I actually think that's your body saying like, I'm helping you things look clear right now so you can go kill something. Like,
You hit that caloric deficit.
It's
you're
time
like,
to go.
Let's go.
Get something. And that's day 2 for me is always hard to sleep. And I think it's the same thing. It's like, hey, buddy, why are you sleeping right now? You need to go and get some food.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that was the first time it ever happened because Heidi's like, hey, I don't think you should keep doing this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to suck it up. Like, I don't think this is going to kill me, so I'm just going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing that kind of shook me out of it and made me realize, like, maybe I don't need to eat 5 meals a day.
Yeah.
Maybe I can, stretch it out a little bit. So, but anyways, going back to like where the leave of absence came out, it really that year that the twins were in the hospital, I hadn't even really processed the stuff from the baby passing away, and good or bad for Heidi, she really was not aware of what was going on. Like I think it was such a traumatic event for her that the 6 hours the baby was alive, she barely can remember any of it. Like the conversations we had, and I was having conversations with her brother, and so that was obviously a very traumatic thing. And then the twins and being basically out of my house for 5 months.
Yeah.
Like I was living with other people for 5 months, and I like my space. I like my space, and I actually quite like being alone.
Right. Totally.
So, anyways, that was a very difficult situation.
Yeah. Well, I remember after that, you were the one that convinced me to go to therapy.
Yeah.
And that's been huge for me because I see a therapist once a week now, at least. I mean, not necessarily at least. I see a therapist at least once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because it's like the greatest thing ever. You just get to work through so much shit.
And I think everyone thinks they're alone, and everyone has some weird shit they're embarrassed about, and everyone has some like trauma. Whether the outside world believes it's trauma or not is irrelevant, because in your mind it is trauma.
Yeah.
Whether it's something that happens to your kid or whatever, like it's basically any psychologist would agree that someone would have something they would consider traumatic in their life. And I don't care what scale you want to put it on, and whether it's relevant to, like my trauma compared to someone that, grew up in that village in Mexico you're talking about. I'm sure the trauma in that village is quite a bit higher than the trauma that, that kid would be like, hey, I would have loved to live your life with your so-called trauma. But regardless, I think everyone has stuff to work through. And I think there's still a stigma attached to like asking for help. And it's not even, I used to think it was a male thing. Like, hey, I think it's just people are embarrassed to admit they're weak and they need help. It's not even weak. It's like, ask for that help.
Yeah. It's just that you're not perfect. I mean, I think especially social media portrays the life that you're living your best life always, and that nothing's ever wrong, and you're always doing the best that's physically possible. But then you get down to it and you're like, oh, well, these people are actually severely depressed who post on Instagram constantly for instant gratification.
The twins, I guess the twins were 2 when we were in Hawaii, and they're both just crying like crazy. And I was there with the other dad, and his kids were being nightmares too. And I'm like, I took a video of the twins crying. I'm like, living the dream in Hawaii. I'm like, I don't sure why we got on a plane to do this. And I took a video and posted it. People were like, oh my God, it's so refreshing. I'm like, never really clicked into me that nobody ever put stuff like that on social media.
Yeah.
They'd put the picture of the kids at the pool and like, we're in Hawaii. Hey, suckers. I just think social media, maybe because I didn't grow up with it, I just think it's a huge, like, bragging.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
It's a total show-off bragging thing, which everyone likes to do, and maybe because I didn't grow up in it, like I don't feel as I don't know.
I try to make a point of posting stuff,
but now I'm on Facebook.
But like
so
I'll make fun of myself. Be like, like fucking rock bottom. Here we go. Like this has been awesome.
Yeah, I just I don't know. Like someone once was like, "You gonna Twitter account?" I'm like, who really gives a fuck what Pat Hennelly's doing all the time? Like, it can't be important to anyone. It's not even important to me.
Yeah.
Like, I think my life's pretty fucking boring. Like, why would you? Who wants to be updated on me?
Yeah.
And there was a point there where I was like, I gotta keep up with the Benny Joes of the world, and I'm like, it's just not me, man.
Yeah.
I just don't think it'd be real.
Yeah.
I can't be real. So I still want to have someone on our team do it because that's more real.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just not me. And if
Yeah.
if I lose a recruit because I'm not on social media, like I guess maybe I don't know. Maybe that wasn't a fit. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm not on social media. Like I like being on Facebook. I've reconnected with a ton of buddies, and I love seeing my friends like what their kids are doing, and
Yeah.
you know, I think that's cool. But I mean, Facebook's for old people, right? Like kids aren't on Facebook anymore.
Yeah. No. Totally.
You know?
I think social media is utilized in not the wrong way, but just an incomplete way.
Oh, and hey, if I was 17, man, I was like every 16-year-old. I cared about what kind of jeans I wore and what I looked like, and my hair didn't really deal with product very well. But I tried my fucking hair products for a while, and I had cologne because I was worried about how I smelled. Like,
Yeah.
So hey, at 16, I would have been a fucking mess with social media, like for sure. I just missed that part of that. You know, I actually really feel, again, I feel bad for kids nowadays.
Oh,
I think it's kind of shitty to grow up as a teenager nowadays.
Totally.
And I used to think, like, even when I grew up in the 80s, like, hey, it must be tougher to be a girl because they're getting marketed to or whatever. Now it's tough to be a guy or a girl, I think,
Yeah.
in terms of peer pressure and looks. And because it really, we've gone from like social media being some words to fucking zero. Instagram and Snapchat. What else is out there? Am I missing something?
I've deleted everything.
But those two things are purely visual.
Yeah.
You want to talk about like superficial, like those are we're not even kids don't even want to communicate in words anymore.
Yeah.
They want pictures, and that line of pictures 1,000 words. Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great with John to be like, he shows me pictures, I show him pictures, and like, yeah, I don't have to try to explain to him.
Yeah.
But really, we're 100% a visual Tinder.
Yeah.
You're not reading someone's bio. Hey, what books is this girl interested in? Does she really like? No, you're like, hot, no, no.
Yeah.
What are you spending on Tinder? 5 seconds, 3 seconds per person?
I just write every time.
Yeah, right. Well, that's smart. That's what I try to do with Kruger. Like,
Yeah,
why are you wasting time?
We talked about that. Just like go to a different
Grab
city,
his phone and just
write everything.
Kruger's
Hey.
like, what did you do? I'm like, I just said yes to 350 girls, Kruger.
You don't know what's good until it's accessible. First thing it's accessible, it changes.
Yeah.
The story changes.
Yeah, I said when they contact back, you can thank me later. Like, it's not a binding contract, Kruger.
Yeah.
And you made that girl's day.
Yeah.
Hey, you made someone feel good, Kruger.
Matt Kruger, good looking guy. All the ladies out there, go.
Is he Kruger a girlfriend now?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't think so. I haven't talked to him in forever.
Huh.
You touched on a point earlier about coaching bleeding into your real life, and that I haven't realized that until I went home to Calgary and realized my dad lets a lot of stuff bleed, like work bleed into real life. And you always say that in volleyball, which used to piss me off a lot because I'd make an error, and not even necessarily a bad error, but then I'd make an error based on that error.
Yeah.
And that always pissed me off because I'd always come to the bench and be like, "Hey, don't let that shit bleed." I'm like, "Go fuck you, get out of my face, don't fucking talk to me." Where did that come from? Because that's a crazy cool concept to me.
Because well, I mean, and we all do this, right? You spend so much time doing something, becomes your identity, and that's where it's hard to retire with something. So I've always tried to be like, that's not me, and I actually, my line now to some people is like, fuck, I feel sorry for having this job because there's other people that love this way more than me. Volleyball.
Yeah.
And I love volleyball. I'm grateful for this job. I love being around a group of guys that are common. Like if it wasn't for fear of heights, I probably would have been a fireman. Like just the idea of being around a group of guys with a common goal and pitching in and doing stuff together, like that stuff I love. But the actual game of volleyball, I don't love it as much as some people. As in, Guy's like, hey, did you check out that Champions League? No, man. I didn't go home and watch Champions League volleyball.
Yeah.
I don't watch any sports.
Yeah.
I used to watch sports in Vancouver when I left working at the airport. Again, it's an immersion thing. I'm working at the airport. All those guys talk about is like Canucks and who made a bad trade and if I was a GM, and there's the province is lying around everywhere, and the province is like 20 pages of Canucks coverage, and it's just lying around free at the airport, so you end up reading it.
Right.
Once I left that vacuum, it's not that I wouldn't consider myself a Canucks fan, and I would certainly watch a playoff game in any sport. Actually, I don't watch the NBA. I don't watch the NHL. People are texting me like, "Hey, you watching this game? What game? What do you mean what game? Seattle, Dallas." I'm like, I've never actually watched the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, it hurt me. You don't know me. Like, I've never. I'll watch a Super Bowl. I used to have Super Bowl parties.
I watched the Super Bowl commercials.
Well, every year in Vancouver, almost every year I lived in Vancouver, I had a Grey Cup party and a Super Bowl party. And I would go to Lions games with buddies, like as a social thing. But I would never once, even when I lived in the States, sat down and watched 8 hours of football.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, so I just always wanted to, like, this is not my life. And there's a stat out that one of them, Ole was the first guy, like my old high school coach, Dave Olenek, was the first guy to be like, there's this place, this business, Kaminko's in Trail.
Yeah.
Huge lead smelter, and it was like one of the biggest lead smelters in the world. And anyways, he's like, what do you think the average age people live after retirement? If they retire at 65, I'm like, I don't know. Because I'm thinking like, okay, these are union guys. They're probably not in great shape, and it was a lead smelter. There was a lot of cancer. Like, and I'm trying to think in my head. I'm like, I know what he's saying. I'm gonna go 5 years. He's like 2. So I'm like, you fucking work your whole life to get to 65 with this huge fat pension that everyone talks about. Like, I gotta get my number.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what your fucking number should be? 70. Why don't you try and make it to 70? That should be the number. Live to fucking 70.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit how much money you have? Anyway, so I always wanted to be like, this is not my identity.
Yeah.
And I don't want my kids to be like, that's all it's about. And and I was a little bit living and dying with like being a volleyball coach, which is great. It's great, but who really gives a shit at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Like, we're not changing the world here.
Yeah.
I think we're changing guys in the program change or whatever, and I think that's great. But I just don't believe it's that important.
Yeah.
And I don't want to base my self-worth and importance on it. I still do. It's still hard not to be like, team's doing shitty, I don't feel great about it. Right. But yeah, I just think like I think everyone gets caught up in it because it's hard not to. If you, whatever you are, right?
Yeah.
It's hard not to be like, that's your identity.
Well, even
and I think the generation before me, that was your identity.
Yeah.
You're like the steel worker, you're like whatever, and you kind of wear that. And I grew up in the Kootenays where these mill guys and how to be a tough guy, and like, it's all bullshit. Like, I thought it was bullshit when I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
So I didn't ever want to be like cookie cutter. I didn't ever want to be like, this is who I am.
Right.
But it is hard. And again, like, I was bringing my job home to Heidi, and I went and saw a counselor again. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, why does she give a fuck if Jimmy there flunked out of school? Really?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and again, you get back to complaining. Once you start talking about something like that, it's hard to stop.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, I love my job, and I'm working on a Freedom 55 plan, and it's looking pretty grim right now. I'm 48, but I said to Heidi, like, I want to work on this plan.
Yeah.
And right now, what am I doing right now? I'm putting $100 into a tax-free savings account, which at first I thought was stupid. I'm like, well, it's still $100 that I'm not blowing.
Yeah.
And then when the twins are at the daycare, we're trying to make plans. Like, I said to Heidi, what's the worst case scenario? Like, I'm looking for something to do that will be like, provide some income when I stop coaching that I love, and I'm trying to save money right now. Like, it can't hurt to do this stuff. Now, do I think I'm going to retire at 55? Not a fucking chance. Financially.
Yeah.
But I also, you know, my dad died at 48. My grandmother died at 50. My mom's mom died at 52. My dad's dad died at 62. I'm like, someone once asked me, like, you got enough money to live to 100? I'm like, fuck, I hope not. So then I'm going to leave that money on the table.
Yeah.
And I've, again, 3 of my friends' dads have died in the last 3 years. I know for a fact they all would have had millions.
Yeah.
Saved up. because they died in their 70s and they were saving up to, you know, that line. And
Live till they're
it's
100.
a fucking marketing line by all these people. Like, you got to have this much money. I'm like, that seems like a lot of money.
Yeah.
And Heidi's dad, this is great. I fucking go back to university at 31, got my afro, trying to finish my phys ed degree. I start dating Heidi. She's doing her PhD in chemistry. And her dad's like, he's trying to make small talk. He's like, oh, so are you in stock market? No. Are you this or whatever? And I just, in my head, I'm like, Marty, man, I don't even have a savings account right now. Like, I think I got $150 in my friggin' bank account right now. Then I'm like, man, if this was my daughter, I'd be kicking this fucking Afro guy right out of my house right now. Like, I actually said that line in my wedding speech. And I'm like, if a kid comes like that, I'd be like, hey, you got two choices, kid. Shotgun or shears. You're gonna shave that head and you're gonna go get yourself a job, or you're gonna get the fuck out of my house. Because I just look back now and I just thought it was hilarious. But he was, because he was his own businessman and quite successful, he was always worried about how much money he had saved up. And he's like, oh, you're lucky, you know, Heidi has a pension, you have a pension. And I still don't really think about it.
Yeah.
Maybe I should, I don't know. But he now has been retired for close to 10 years. He has not touched his principal, which is great, you know.
Yeah.
And then he actually gets a pension from Finland, which is a real pension. Like, I think it's about 45,000 euros or something in that zone. Oh, as their CPP, and our CPP is like $1,200 a month or something. Anyways, so he's doing quite well, but he has this massive nest egg, and I'm just thinking, you're gonna die with that money, man. Like,
yeah.
And they do enjoy their life, but
right.
I've told Heidi, like, my plan, and I'll tell my kids when they get older, hey, Dad's gonna run it fucking dry. If you think there's a nest egg coming, like, we're gonna sell the house, you're welcome to it. Like, I'm not trying to, but hey, don't expect anything, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna live it. I'm not planning on, you know, I'm not planning on dying with $5 million in my bank account.
Yeah.
And I've said it to my mom. I'm like, she just grew up, my mom was interned in the war. They didn't have a lot of money growing up. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. My mom can't take a cab. She's walked instead of taking a cab.
Yeah. And
I'm like, Chess, you can take a cab? Like, oh, I don't want to waste the money. You know, and I know for a fact, she's told me that she has like $150,000 in her checking account because she doesn't even spend her pension, and she won't take a cab. I'm like, go on a vacation, hire a cleaner.
Yeah.
Fuck. She's like, I don't like cleaning. Hire a cleaner. No, I'm good. I don't like cooking. Call in for takeout. Like, live it up. And I said to her, I go, hey, you might as well spend it, because I don't know about my brother and sister, Mike and Nicole. I'm planning on blowing that money if you give it to me. If you think, I go, Mom, if you think you're going to give me money and it's going to trickle down to the kids, they're going to enjoy it, because I want to go on vacations. I want to take a year off from work. Like, there's things I do if I got that, you know, money.
Oh, yeah. Fuck, for sure.
So I made a joke about it. Like, hey, you should spend it because we're going to blow it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think she should, but her generation finds that super hard. Yeah. And I actually said this to Heidi because I think we grew up in different circumstances, but I'm like, I actually quite uncomfortable by how rich my kids are. And by no means do I feel like we're rich.
Yeah.
But Tosca's been to Disneyland twice, Hawaii 3 times, Europe once.
Yeah.
I think I'd been to Spokane once by the time I was Tosca's age.
I don't think I traveled anywhere by that age, to be honest.
I think I didn't stay in a hotel room ever with my parents. Ever. Like, I went on hotel rooms on sports trips, but we never stayed in a hotel.
Yeah.
That I can remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I don't know. We're as a society, we're loaded right now.
Yeah.
And what's frustrating for me is every political campaign, everything is about trying to keep the wealth going, trying to keep the continuous growth going. Like, like the guy that got elected in Brazil, he just says it straight out, like, we're cutting the forest down, man. I don't know why we're going to listen to other people trying to tell us to stay in the rainforest.
Yeah.
How are we going to make money in Brazil? We're cutting the forest down.
Yeah.
He's not even pretending. He's not even like trying to masquerade it or what. He's just flat out saying, like, we're going to continue to burn and cut the forest down. The rest of the world can go stick it.
Yeah. I mean, fuck, why?
They want to keep the train going.
Like,
but we're so rich now, in North America at least, it's almost impossible to keep this growth going.
Man, we're living in a utopia. If you really think about it, if you go back 200 years and you say, hey, like, this is going to be life in 200 years, those people are saying that's utopia, 100%. We
You
currently
go
live
back
in a utopia.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
30 years ago. And people would be like, you guys are so rich, it's ridiculous.
Like 100 years ago. People are living on $1 a day.
Anyways, where I grew up, there was like, I don't know, less than 5% of the people I grew up with went on vacations.
Yeah.
So I remember my buddies going to like Hawaii. And I'm thinking, look at these fucking bastards going away. Like, and I'd never been on a plane. My first trip on a plane was a sports trip.
Yeah.
Sold friggin' chocolate bars for like 6 months to get on this plane trip to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan.
Oh, yeah.
First trip. Moose Jaw, baby.
Fucking Moose Jaw. Holy.
But anyways,
place.
30 years ago, people would have been like, what?
Yeah.
And even, okay, well, it's still my pet peeve with Vancouver real estate. Nothing should triple in your lifetime. So Heidi's brother 7 years ago bought for $2 million. It hit $6 million. It's down to $5 million. It still shouldn't ever double. 7 years, real estate should not double in 7 years.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, it's unlivable. Well, what do you mean? Who can fucking buy a house at $2 million?
Yeah.
Much less $6 million. And Heidi's brother is an anesthesiologist. He makes $500,000 a year. And he says, like, I would not be able to afford my house right now as a first-year doctor. Now, a bank would lend him the money, but still, he wouldn't. He's like, where could I get the down payment on a $6 million house? Good point. It's hard. It's hard to come up with $600,000 in cash.
Yeah.
For anyone that's not a drug dealer. Or inherited it.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Like, anyways, I think for a bunch of different reasons, it just has to be some kind of crash here. I mean, I'm actually, there was a point there, again, looking at my phone, where I was like, I need to start fucking prepping for some kind of disaster here. And if it wasn't for how much shit Heidi would talk to me, I probably would already be prepping food.
I mean, you got a garden ready, you're good to go.
Yeah, but that's only seasonal. I'm really interested in finding some way to have, like, I need a power source if power goes out to keep the freezers going.
Yeah.
I have enough food in my house right now for 6 months. Just because our freezer's full of meat.
You just have a Jenny?
No. That's one of the things I have to decide. But I don't want a generator. I want, like, solar panels or something.
Yeah.
Generator needs gas.
Yeah. Yeah, solar panels are getting
But then
more
they need a battery.
Yeah.
Because right now you get a solar panel, you sell it to the grid. At some point, I'm putting solar panels up.
Yeah.
Right now, if you buy solar panels in Kamloops, they pay themselves off in about 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's a 10-year investment. And then, anyways. Every time I start saying something like, Heidi's like, you're going crazy. And I'm like, hey, I'm not fucking preparing for zombies or nuclear war. Because we're all kind of screwed. Like, if war really happens, like, I don't care about living an extra 3 months.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, like, the pipeline from California dries up.
Yeah.
And the States is crazy, man. People are like, oh, that's not going to happen. They're in a 19-day shutdown of the government. It's fucking ground to a halt there, man. People aren't getting checks.
Yeah.
Garbage isn't getting picked up. Like, it's already there. It's not long. I actually think in 2020, Trump loses, and there's a bunch of fucking white guys going around shooting people. Because Trump's going to be a fucking retard. And he's going to be like, hey, election was rigged.
Yeah.
They took this power away from me. You guys got to do something about this. And his fucking crazy base, the 5% of the 30%, they're all loaded up, man. Those guys have, like, they're already militia guys. They got their guns, man. That little rally there with the torches.
Did I?
That's AK-47s, man. Every one of those fucking white guys has an AK-47 that was holding that torch.
Did I tell you about my hitchhiking experience?
No.
So it's the second year hitchhiked back to Calgary to see my ex-girlfriend. Bad idea. Didn't turn out well. So
like Stalker wanted to see her? Or?
No. It was like a mutual thing. We wanted to see each other, and then went back to see her. So I hitchhiked from Kamloops to Calgary, and then back, and then back to Calgary, and then back to Kamloops.
And who picked you up, man? Is this what you're gonna tell me?
Yeah. So
because I wouldn't pick you up, and I grew up hitchhiking.
No, but
look at that guy.
I was clean shaven.
Yeah, but the psychos always are.
Had some nice, yeah, exactly. No,
crazy ones don't look as crazy.
I'm pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Had some really nice clothes on. That was the thing. I even had funny signs like, doesn't smell, loves dogs, shit like that. Like one guy turned around. He took the next off ramp, came back, like not even the median, but like came through the ditch in the middle of the highway to come and pick me up because he's like, hey man, you have a funny sign. So the first guy that picks me up. So what happened was Sam dropped me off in the middle of, not the middle of Kamloops, but he just dropped me off at the top of the highway. I walked for 3 hours to get out of the city, and this was when it was super duper smoky, so I couldn't work because I was painting.
Yeah.
And I walked for 3 hours to the wildlife park out of Kamloops.
Yeah.
And then this guy came and picked me up, this stocky looking rugby guy, and we drove to Salmon Arm. I think Salmon Arm was first, and then he's like, we're having good conversations about genealogy and like social hierarchies and stuff, and then he's like, you know what, man, I'm just gonna drive you to Sicamous. Like, this is pretty fun. This is cool. This is a cool talk.
Yeah.
So we drive to Sicamous, and then at about Sicamous, he starts going off about how all the Arabs are, actually the Arabs. Yeah. They're taking over the world, and they're starting to take over BC, and he's like, you know, man, I've got a militia in Salmon Arm. He's like, I'm starting to order in guns. We got camo gear going on. He's like, I've started to build little forts all over the place in Salmon Arm. And so he ended up driving me to Revelstoke, but he was so fucking straight up about everything. He was like, yep, I got a militia getting ready to go up, and
just in case.
Yeah, he's like, I have people that I've given guns to.
Well, you know this because you have your pal.
Yeah.
But we can have handguns in Canada. We can have semi-automatic with an pal.
Yeah.
We can have it. It's harder to get, and there's real rules around them, but you can still get this stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And this guy just ordered everything. He had all of this insane gear ready to go, and he's like, yeah, I've been training people. I'm ready to go. Like, first thing that them Arabs start to come in, we're going down to Vancouver, and we're just going to start killing people. And the whole time, just sitting there like, this is pretty fucked up. But, I mean, this guy's giving me a ride. And the scariest part of hitchhiking, I'm sure you understand this, the scariest part of hitchhiking... I
hitchhiked in the Kootenays, and hippies used to pick me up, so like, I don't really...
No. The scariest part of hitchhiking is when... It's not when you get into their car, but it's when you get out. It's when you get out, and you start to walk, and... I mean, I had this with a couple of truck drivers where they're like, oh, so, like, where's your tent? Oh, I don't have a tent. Where's your bear mace? I don't have bear mace. Oh, well, what are you going to do if nobody picks you up? I'm fucked. I'm hoping to get to Calgary within a 12-hour span, because if I don't, I'm completely fucked. So the scariest part
where's your bear mace? And they're like, hey, you have a pretty mouth. Hey,
you gotta squeal like a piggy, boy.
You don't have any weapons? Oh, okay. You're in the middle of nowhere?
No, it's terrifying. Like, not being in the car isn't scary.
No, I've never hitchhiked. Like, I hitchhiked within the little valley or whatever.
Okay, yeah, I went.
I always got picked up by a hippie in a Datsun, Datsun truck, and fucking picked me up. And
that's pretty awesome. I went long distance, and it was the scariest part of hitchhiking is when you're walking and you kind of go after 10 minutes, like, someone will pick me up soon. Then after 2 hours, you're still just walking on the highway, and you go, fuck, man. I
actually picked up a hitchhiker with Heidi, and she was so pissed off.
Really?
What if he's crazy? I'm like, yeah, good point, I guess. Like, it's hard for me to protect you with my hands are on the steering wheel.
You're just kind of watching her. Yeah, you're like, oh, come on, Heidi, do something.
Oh, yeah.
Like, fight back.
I think most people don't pick up hitchhikers anymore.
The truck drivers do a lot because they get bored. But besides that, like, people don't normally... Very, very... I met an Australian Vietnam War veteran.
Yeah. That
guy had some fucked up stories. There was one point where we're kind of joking around about stuff, and then he goes, yeah, it was cool until I went back to Australia and everyone just called me a baby killer. And then we didn't talk for half an hour.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, we just kind of sat there. I was like...
It's a deal breaker.
Yeah. Just went, holy shit, okay, that's pretty intense. And then after another half hour, Yeah, but he just told me about his Tasmanian devil tattoo after that. But man, that was fucking crazy. But yeah,
So what did your dad think about you hitchhiking back and forth?
he thought it was awesome. I just showed up. I showed up so I got dropped off by Chinook, like a mall in Calgary,
Yeah.
and went to KT's work, like Kyle Taylor. He worked at Lulu at the time, and I just showed up at his work, and I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" He's like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" I go, "Oh, I just hitchhiked." No way. Yeah, no. Here are my signs. Here's my backpack. I literally got dropped off right beside.
Yeah.
And then went home. My dad's like, "Fuck, that's awesome." Told him all the stories, and it was some crazy shit. My mom hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she refuses to. Anytime I tell her that I'm traveling anywhere, she immediately books me a bus ticket or a plane ticket because
Where are you gonna hitchhike?
yeah, she hates it. Yeah,
Yeah,
hitchhiking.
there's a lot of things I did that I don't want my kids to do.
Yeah, it's when you're a kid.
Well,
You're
okay,
invincible.
Tosca's 7 right now. Starting at about 8, maybe it was 9. I used to jump in the river. Not tell my parents. Jump in the river and float to wherever my buddies, like the beach we would all go to. So I'd
Yeah.
float like, I don't know, kilometer and a half.
Yeah,
And it's a much faster river than North Thompson. So I'm thinking, what would I think if Tosca just jumped in the fucking river and floated to like her friend's place a kilometer down the way? I'm like, you just pure panic, man.
she's like, "I'm going
I
to
mean,
the
my
North
parents
Shore,
didn't
Dad.
know.
I'll see you later."
I don't think my mom still knows,
Yeah,
but it's like, wow, maybe there is something to be said for a little hovering every once in a while.
yeah. Oh, totally. I mean,
Although I guess we're alive. Me and my brother are still alive of all the things we did.
that's the craziest thing is that there's so few kids that actually die. I mean, there are the outliers, which sucks, but there's so few kids that die from being abducted or
Oh yeah, I mean,
whatever.
It's
I mean,
proven that the numbers are either flatlined or down.
it's an astronomical. There's an astronomical rating that you're actually going to get abducted.
This
or
is real
murdered.
though. Like Tosca's with, Chad's daughter was over, Naya, and they're like, "Hey, can we go see the horses?"
Yeah,
And then my first instinct is like, of course, why wouldn't? It's 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
We're in friggin' Rayleigh.
yeah,
The most dangerous thing in Rayleigh is like I think falling into the river. So I'm like, yeah, of course. And I was like, well, should we? Like, yeah. Well, what if something happens? Then you got to say, what if, man?
yeah.
Then I'm like, oh, do I really have the authority to let Naya? And then Chad's like, of course they can go there. But you just had this gnawing. I don't know if it's social media or what it is. You have this gnawing thing like, what if?
Well, the what if is
And
terrifying.
it just makes you feel sick. And I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm trying to talk myself off the ledge. I'm like, hey, don't be crazy, man.
Yeah.
How are your kids gonna? How would we expect our kids to have that
That's why people are the most...
when we never
yeah.
let them do anything?
That's
Really, kids don't get to do a shit nowadays.
No.
It's actually kind of terrible to be a kid.
You don't really get a life.
I actually think every generation's worse off.
As it gets further down, and it's really funny.
Because I think before people used to say to us, like, you guys have it so lucky.
Yeah.
Like, oh, your generation's spoiled. And I'm thinking, like, I wouldn't want to be a kid now.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think they have it better. And I don't
Yeah.
think, and a university, I think, is way worse. University in the 90s was like a holiday, man. Compared to.
You get to go to parties and shit. We don't.
I actually
party
look
here.
at my grades. My grades were fine.
Yeah.
I got an education, but I never stressed at all.
Yeah.
I don't get the whole stress. Like, any people, I'm like, how'd you do in the test? I don't know. I never got that either. I could pretty much tell you within 2 percentage points. Like, hey, skin of my teeth, man. I'm praying for 60.
Yeah.
I probably got 50, and then I'd get like a 58. Kind of knew,
Yeah.
whatever, but also just didn't really care. Like, there's
Yeah.
just such a panic level now. Even getting into education. And, okay, when nursing's at 90, no offense to anyone, but you don't need 90% to be a good nurse. We're actually probably going to exclude people that would be great teachers and great nurses because they didn't sit and study all day.
Yeah.
Like, is that really how we find the best nurses, teachers, whatever? Like,
Well, it becomes a thing of sociability compared to
And,
actual IQ.
like I said before, there is padding in grades. It's not that kids aren't smarter now, but yeah, I just think it's now 90 means nothing now.
yeah.
Before 90 is like, you're the smartest guy. That guy, holy shit, he got 90. He's a brain surgeon.
Yeah.
Now you're like, oh, I hope I get into UBC sciences.
Yeah.
My uncle's a doctor. The uncle I went to visit.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Uncle Mike, what were your grades like? Not very good. How'd you get into med school? Because my grandfather was a psychiatrist. Dad pulled a few strings and talked to some colleagues and got me in.
Yeah.
He's a doctor. He basically was a drunken buffoon. He was in business. He's like, didn't really go to class, didn't really have good grades. Like his high school, he went to private school. He's like, my high school grades are okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna assume okay. What I assume okay means back in that era is like 60 to 70.
Yeah.
So here's a 60 to 70 guy who likes his pints, fucked around in business school and got in, and he's a doctor. And now it's like you have to be an angel with a 95% average. Then you have to crush it through university right from year 1, 95.
Volunteering.
So
and
again,
all that
in
shit,
the 90s, even people that went to med school, they're like, yeah, you don't have to really worry about anything until third year. There's a reason why UBC, there was a beer garden every single day of the week. There was a robust beer garden going on. And I think TRU is a particularly boring campus, but it's a different life, man.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a better life.
Well, even now, people are having to take 6 courses because it's not enough to get a 95 anymore. You have to take an entirely full course load to stand out. You have to take 6 to 7 courses.
5 still a full course load, isn't it?
Yeah. Like you have to take 6 to
stand out.
Which is absurd. That's fucking crazy.
Oh yeah, even in the mid 90s, I didn't think grades were the best way to decide who's going to be a doctor.
I think it's all about personability.
Well, for a family doctor, for sure.
Yeah, the best doctors that I've had are just awesome people. They're not. You learn throughout doing your practice about what's the best and what to do. I'm not saying the guy with the highest IQ in the room is going to be the best doctor. That guy might be the smartest, but it differs whether how good of an actual doctor they are. It has to be a mixture of IQ and personability.
The smartest guy in the room should be in research.
Yeah.
He should be the guy.
Absolutely.
He should be the guy trying to cure cancer.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sure he's going to be a great surgeon or whatever.
Yeah.
We got to shut this down, Carlo. Are we done?
Getting close. Better wrap it up.
Let's
do it. Yeah, no, 100%.
Did we even cover anything?